In progress. Good.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here for this Black Empowerment Works information session, our first one of the 2023 season. We're so excited to be with you today. My name is Janae Bradley. I'm the director of our Black-led social change team here at United Way of Greater Cincinnati. I like to describe my role as a visionary and coordinator of chaos. And joining me here today from the BEW team is Jeremiah Pennebaker. He is really my co-pilot, partner in crime, working to get this stuff done, described as a thinker and a roller with the punches. We're not the only two people that you'll have the opportunity to hear from today. Also joining us will be Deasa Dorsey with I Can Help, Kimberly Huckleby of Ladies of Leadership, both organizations being 3-time Black Empowerment Works grantees, and Anita Harney, a 2-time Black Empowerment Works reviewer. We aim to do a couple of things with our time today. First, we'll provide a why of the Black Empowerment Works program. So what was the background that got it started and what do we hope to achieve? We'll then provide an overview of the program and the process, both from the reviewer, community reviewer standpoint, and from the grant applicant standpoint. And we'll provide an overview of other opportunities for engagement and further learning throughout the process. So let's start from the beginning, right? What is Black Empowerment Works? Well, our Black Empowerment Works program is a part of the Black-led social change initiative here at United Way of Greater Cincinnati. And as a United Way, our focus is on building solutions and aligning systems to help families in our region to thrive. We've said often that our longtime work has been to invest in great programs in the community, but often that work is focused on addressing symptoms of further rooted systems change. So it's important for us to get down to the roots to say, what are the policies, the practices, the resources that we need to change? How do we think about power differently and mental models to really build wide-scale community change in our region? While we do that work externally, it's also important for us to ask those questions of ourselves internally. What are policies and practices that we may have in place that create limits or boundaries? How do we reimagine what power looks like in our relationships? And the Black Empowerment Works program sort of fits nicely into looking at how do we address systems change external and internal to our organization. We've said that Black-led social change exists because we as an organization are compelled to hold space and provide resources to imagine and bring to life unencumbered, self-determined Black futures. What that means for us is that we have to provide those funds, we have to create capacity for folks in our community to say, what would we like to see in the future? For a long time, when we first started the Black-led social change initiative, we described the why as we exist because we see in our region there's an overrepresentation of Black families experiencing poverty, where 1 in 3 Black families will experience poverty as compared to 1 in 10 of their white counterparts. And at the same time, there's an underinvestment in community-based Black-led work and Black leaders. If we believe that those closest to any challenge are likely closest to the solution, there's work that we need to do to get leaders closest to the resource. But we want to reframe that entire narrative to be more asset-based, to say, what are the conditions that we can create today that help to pave this future that we would like to see, a future that is unencumbered and self-determined. So in Black Empowerment Works, we are centered on that. And Black Empowerment Works is often defined as a grant program, but we want to lift up that it's so much more than that. It's definitely a grant program and dollars are necessary. But what we're aiming to do is to provide resources to community-based Black-led work to build on those solutions and transform systems. In this process, we engage community members as decision makers. So we're shifting power to community members that are more proximate. And we're building this and contributing to this ecosystem of support for Black social change makers. I'm going to spend a minute to talk about some of the work that we've been able to achieve since the Black Empowerment Works program launched in 2020. So since 2020, we've been able to engage over 90 community members as decision makers to decide where our investment goes. We have invested $2.9 million into 100 Black-led efforts since 2020. And these include a myriad of work that we're really excited about and that we believe will promote that positive change we'd like to see in community. We create spaces, both physical and virtual, to connect, celebrate, and grow. So it is about how can we create physical spaces such as gatherings, and we have a space in the second floor of our building that's exclusively used for Black Empowerment Works grantees as a workspace with some small conference rooms in it. So how do we provide those sorts of spaces while also creating virtual spaces? So we have an online community that change makers engaged with us can build connections with each other to celebrate and grow. We hold these resources, information sessions, coaching opportunities for folks within the Black Empowerment Works community to grow their capacity and their knowledge. And while we're in our fourth year, I want to talk about what we've been able to do and what change makers have been able to do in just one class. So this focuses on some stats from our second class of Black Empowerment Works, where just in that group of change makers, over 24,000 people in our community were impacted by the funded work. 90% of those funded reporting building their capacity during the grant cycle, and 60% reported building a new collaboration with another funded partner. So again, this is more than just funding to us, though it is very important. So let's talk a little bit about the process, the selection process for Black Empowerment Works. Our applications opened on May 1st, both the community reviewer application and the grant applications. Because we want to make this grant process as short of amount of time as possible so we can get dollars out of the door, we close the application to our community reviewers a little bit earlier, and we begin the work of training those community reviewers to take on this responsibility of selecting where the investment goes. Grant application closes on June 28th, and then from July 10th to August 22nd, we spend that time, or the reviewers spend that time reading through those applications, holding conversations with grant applicants to learn more about their work, and then deliberating around those final decisions. We'll send individual decision letters via email on August 23rd, and we'll communicate the decisions publicly, so you'll be able to see the full list of folks funded on August 28th. After that, we'll do a celebration of the reviewers that helped to make all of this possible. So we're going to spend some time during this session to talk about the two distinct opportunities to engage in Black Empowerment Works. The first one we'll talk about is applying for grant funding. We've shared that we have $1.6 million available to invest in community-based Black-led work. And while we try to keep the types of work that we invest in very broad, we do have some parameters. So we'll share exactly what we're aiming to fund. We'll share about the general eligibility requirements, focus areas, two special funding pools that we have available, how we make decisions, and available resources and supports to help you through the process. Let's start with eligibility. There are 5 basic eligibility requirements for Black Empowerment Works. The first is geographic focus. Our United Way of Greater Cincinnati encompasses a 9-county region, which includes Hamilton, Brown, and Claremont counties in Ohio, Dearborn and Ohio counties in Southeast Indiana, Boone, Kenton, Grant, and Campbell counties in Kentucky. The work must happen within those 9 counties. This doesn't mean that your work has to exclusively happen in those 9 counties, but what we'll fund has to be there. The second, and perhaps one of the most important eligibility requirements, is Black leadership in labor. When our group of community leaders, the Champions of Change, designed this grant program, it was important that we have an emphasis on Black leadership, which is defined that the majority of people empowered to make decisions on behalf of the group identify as Black. So if there's more than one person within the organization or
No, I meant
project,
to
at
fill out
least
the
60% of those folks must identify as Black. If it's an organization that has a board of directors, at least 50% of that board of directors needs to identify as Black. It's important for me to lift up now that this grant opportunity, one of the things that makes it unique is that it's not only open to nonprofit organizations, it's also open to for-profit organizations, social enterprises, community coalitions, and individuals. Grassroots and community-based is our third eligibility requirement, and we define this in two ways. One is that the organization is smaller in operations, and the second is that people that are impacted by the issue or opportunity area being addressed have a role in shaping it and building the work. So we're looking for people that have direct experience or indirect experience in that focus area. Again, those closest to any challenge or opportunity are likely closest to the solution. Our fourth eligibility requirement is around community benefit. This one is very important, and it's a very important delineator between what would be considered a general small business grant and what we're looking to support. So across Black Empowerment Works, it is important that the work provides a broad community benefit and does not provide any benefit to any direct individual, group, or business. This is not a traditional small business grant. So it does really have to have an intentional impact in the community and address one of our focus areas. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. And our final eligibility requirement is actionable. So this has to be work that can produce impactful and measurable results within the first year of the grant cycle. So our grant cycle runs September 2023 to September 2024. And it has to be far enough in development or execution to have measurable results. So if you're looking to purchase a building, that likely isn't going to be able to produce measurable results within a year. Again, our work as a United Way is around building solutions and aligning systems to help our community thrive. And our Black Empowerment Works work that we invest in should align to that focus as well. How do we support our community and specifically the Black community thrive? We've lifted up a couple of focus areas that really capture what we're looking to invest in. I want to note that this is not an exhaustive list, so there may be other areas that your work focuses in, but it will likely touch one or several of the ones listed here. They include things like access to quality early child care and education, quality K through 12 education, including academic after school time, basic needs and housing, birth equity or the assurance of optimal births, physical and mental health, and then one that I want to make sure I lift up, which is this systems change, mobilizing, and movement building. The work doesn't always have to be a direct service. If it's building coalitions to address a community need or a policy move, that is also eligible through the Black Empowerment Works program. Again, your work may touch one or multiple of these areas, but we also create space for other focus areas if a strong case is made. So let's get into what's ineligible through Black Empowerment Works. The first, which we've touched on a little bit, is general business operating support. Again, this is not a traditional small business grant. The application must demonstrate a community benefit aligned to one of the focus areas, and that benefit must go beyond what would be provided to employees and stakeholders of the business. Secondly, capital campaigns are not eligible. A capital campaign is defined as a targeted fundraising effort to raise a large amount of money in a specific time frame for a large project. Oftentimes you hear capital campaigns or that term used for developing or renovating a property. This is ineligible for us for a couple of reasons, but one primary one being that it likely will require more funds than we're able to provide, which limits the possibility that it will produce measurable results within the grant cycle. Political campaigns and partisan political work is ineligible through Black Empowerment Works as well. This is true across nonprofit organizations, and United Way is one as well. We cannot engage in partisan political work or political campaigns. What I do want to specify, though, is if there's work that you're doing that is nonpartisan, that is issue-based, that could certainly be eligible for funding. Debt reduction or work occurring prior to our grant period is not eligible either. I want to clarify to say this does not mean that you can't have a program that you've been running for years that you would like to submit for funding. What it does mean is the dollars that you're requesting for us must cover expenses that are upcoming, so it cannot be used to cover past debt. Our final ineligible criteria is work occurring outside of the UWGC 9-county region. I'm going to take a pause for a second and see from Jeremiah if there are any questions that have appeared in the chat that we might want to address.
No questions in the chat, but as Janae is going, feel free to drop anything that pops up into your mind into the chat and I'll make sure to record it.
Thank you, Jeremiah. So big picture, our aim is to invest in a diverse portfolio of work, representing different organization structures, again, ranging from nonprofits to community coalitions to individuals and for-profits, different focus areas from prenatal care to care for seniors, and communities. This may be both geographic communities or focused populations. Our grants will range from $4,000 to $40,000 this year. This is an increase from past years where the range was $2,500 to $25,000. Additionally, a change that we're making this year is that these grants are optionally renewable for a second year. What that means is that if you are making good pace against our initial agreement, so everything is going well for you, we're seeing progress, and we have the funds available, you will receive a second year of grants. I want to specify that we do have those funds available right now, but we always have to add that contingency in case something unexpected happens. I know that COVID blindsided many of us in 2020, so we always want to make sure that we have that contingency, but just know the expectation is that all work that is moving forward smoothly, on pace, we continue that engagement, should look forward to a second year of funding through Black Empowerment Works. So we've mentioned that we have $1.6 million available in funding, but that $1.6 million is across a couple of different funding pools. What's great about the process is that you don't have to submit more than one application. So we'll talk about these three funding pools, with the two special funding pools being the Always Confidence Fund and the BI3 Health Equity Fund. But just know it is one application. And if you are considered to be eligible for one or both of these special pools, you'll just be considered for that bucket of dollars that's available. Ultimately, you would only be funded by one of these three pools for up to $40,000 in any given year. Our general funding pool is the most broadly available one. So any work that is strong and meets those eligibility requirements could be considered for that general funding pool. But the other two have really specific eligibility requirements above and beyond the eligibility requirements for Black Empowerment Works. Let's start with the BI3 Health Equity Fund. BI3 is a philanthropic arm of TriHealth and the Bethesda system. They partnered with us starting last year to build out a customized fund within Black Empowerment Works. Their fund, this health equity fund invests in Black-led 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So in this case, it has to be a nonprofit organization, cannot be a fiscally sponsored organization, that works to improve health outcomes and build health equity. The two focus areas of the Health Equity Fund this year are accelerating birth equity, which is defined as projects that improve the birth experience and reduce health disparities in maternal and infant health, resulting in better outcomes for Black families. And improving youth mental health, defined as projects that improve mental health and provide mental health services, resources, and assistance for Black youth, including projects that are focused on prevention and reducing stigma. The BI3 team will be providing special priority to projects that are youth-led. Our second special fund is the Always Confidence Fund. This fund is in partnership with the P&G Always brand, and it is aligned to their mission of unleashing girls' and women's confidence. Their three focus areas of the Always Confidence Fund are tackling societal barriers on period stigma and gender inequality, supporting the confidence building of puberty-aged people with periods, and providing access to period products and education. When we launched the Always Confidence Fund a couple of years ago, we engaged with a group of young women to understand what opportunity spaces they further wanted to lift up in the Always Confidence Fund. And these 7 rose to the surface. So priority will be given to organizations' work that addresses one or multiple of these 7 spaces, such as equipping people to advocate for the safety and protection of girls, especially equipping girls to advocate for their own safety and protection, equipping spaces, especially schools, with period resources and education, providing education for boys and male identifying people, especially those who care for girls, either personally or professionally, recognizing that they play an important role in the experiences of period-aged folks, and reconsidering or challenging school policies and practices that negatively impact girls. You can find all of this information in the grant information packet that's available on our website. So you do not have to try to write all of this information down right now. Let's talk about a couple of elements of a strong application. We know that there is no shortage of amazing work that happens in our communities every single day, but we also know that we have a finite amount of dollars that we can invest in any given year. So we always want to lift up the qualities of a strong application. First and foremost, though it is listed at the bottom of this list, is eligibility. So the work should strongly align to the eligibility criteria, including some of those focus areas. Another is clarity. So the proposed work should be clear, defined, and easy to understand, recognizing that community members are making these investment decisions. Feasibility is important. The budget and timeline that are submitted should be clear and feasible. It should be easy to draw the line that with resources, there is the ability to carry out this work as defined, which is directly connected to the next area of capacity. So we would like to see that with funding and some supports, there is sufficient capacity to carry out the work proposed. That capacity means human capacity. So do you have the people to carry it out, the knowledge and expertise to carry out the work, other resources such as funding if necessary to carry it out. So basically there are very few, if any, barriers in the way to get this work started immediately. And impact is the final element of a strong application. Is that work able to produce meaningful and measurable results that supports our community in thriving? I'm going to take a beat again. I see there are some things in the chat. Jeremiah, are there ones that I should address right now?
Yes, so we got 3 questions. One from Phyllis. How is youth defined? I said that it goes from birth to 18, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything additional to that.
Is this in the context of the Health Equity Fund?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I think the focus is primarily on school-aged youth. Great question, though.
Got you. So we got a question from Angela. If you get funding from the main fund, can you get additional funds from the BI3 fund as well, especially if you have multiple businesses?
The answer to that one is no. So within, and I forgot to mention this, within any given grant year, you may only submit one application to the Black Empowerment Works program. So any one application that you submit has the opportunity to be awarded up to $40,000. But through this pool, for any individual program or body of work, it would not be funded more than $40,000 in this pathway. We do have other resources that are available to Black Empowerment Works grantees after the fact, though.
Yes. And the last question coming from Baz, is the 50% Black members of the board of directors a hard line, even if the rest of the leadership is Black?
Would you like to come off of mute and explain a little bit more about that if you feel comfortable? Otherwise, we can address that question offline. I think big picture, we're looking for there to be Black leadership across the board. So we recognize, and the champions lifted up, that boards of directors have a lot of power in shaping the direction of the work. So we do try to make a pretty firm line that at least 50% of that board should identify as Black. If there's a special case, like, we're willing to address those on a case-by-case basis, but generally those are the basic eligibility requirements. Was there another one, Jeremiah, or was that all three?
That was all three. I wanted to see if Baz wanted to come off mute, but yep, that was all the questions.
Perfect.
I think you answered it, Jenna. Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. So let's talk about the phases of the application. Should you choose to apply, you'll do that through our EC Impact online system. The first thing you'll be asked to do is to create an account and to complete an eligibility questionnaire. This eligibility questionnaire is largely used as a filter for you to say, does my work meet the eligibility requirements to be considered? We use it at a pretty light level to do some filtering to determine whether we move folks through to the full application phase. There's only a couple of questions that we have the ability to look into, and one of those is a description of the work. So we're looking to make sure that it meets that community benefit space and that it is grassroots and community-based work. For for-profit organizations, you may be asked a couple of additional questions just to make sure that we are meeting that community benefit space. While it does seem like it should be pretty black and white, we found that there's a lot of nuance and shades of gray in the middle. The rest of the questions are yes and no questions, so we are trusting that you are answering those questions truthfully. If you are approved to move through to the full application, you will complete that full application and submit it. Again, deadline to submit the full application is June 28th at 5 p.m. Our reviewers will then engage in the process in reviewing that written application that you've submitted. But the group of community members that designed it recognized that oftentimes grant processes really sway towards people that are really great with the written word. And sometimes it's hard to communicate your work fully in writing. So we've implemented a component of grant applicant and reviewer conversations. So these are a short conversation that you'll have with the review team assessing your application to lift up any questions that were had during the process and to give an opportunity for grant applicants to showcase their work. Following that phase and doing some deliberation, that's when decisions will be made and communicated. The grant application is now live. So if you visit our website, uwgc.org/BEW apply, you'll see a button that has you apply. It'll take you to this EC Impact portal. You'll know that you're in the right place because you'll see the United Way of Greater Cincinnati branding on it. Just Googling EC Impact will not take you to the right place. So we really encourage you to either always navigate to it from the United Way website or to bookmark the page. An asset is that you do not have to complete this application in one setting. So you do have the ability to save and come back. And you also have the ability to add additional contacts to your application so that you can collaboratively complete it. But you're not on your own in this process. We want to make sure that we're providing supports so that any range of leader, whether your idea is really in the idea stage or you've been executing it for years, has the ability to be competitive in this process. This year, we're going to be offering a couple of workshops. So they'll be occurring the remaining Tuesdays of this month. These are 1-hour virtual sessions that will be recorded, so you'll have access to them later, covering topics that have come up in past years as areas for improvement or increased learning. There are things like, is your work grant ready? Providing a deep dive on the application and some tips to submitting a strong application. Designing, delivering, and evaluating programs. So how do you measure the work that you're doing? And finally, a session on building a budget that works. Again, all of those will be recorded and you'll have access to those recordings after the session, but we encourage you to attend live so that you can ask questions and have them answered. We do provide an unlimited number of question sessions. Question sessions are designed as these 30-minute engagements with a member of the Black Empowerment Works staff team where you can ask questions that you have about the process, about navigating the system, or anything else. And we're happy to provide general guidance and encouragement throughout that. Again, you can schedule an unlimited number of these, and the link to schedule is on our website. We have an option for a pre-submission review. If you if you complete your application prior or 2 weeks prior to the grant deadline, anytime before 2 weeks prior to the grant deadline, you can send an email and request for us to do a preliminary review where we'll do a basic scan and lift up recommendations or questions that we think a reviewer might have in the process. You should request this before you hit submit. But we're always available for questions. So feel free to give us a call at 513-762-7233 or send us an email at black-led@uwgc.org. This phone line and this email pings to all of the members of the Black Empowerment Works team, which is soon to grow to a team of 4. So we aim to get to your questions as soon as possible and definitely within 24 hours of when you've sent it. I am now going to pause again to see if there are any questions before I turn it over to Jeremiah to talk about the reviewer side of the process.
Got you. So Angela asked the question, can you apply for the grant and be a reviewer as well? I answered and just let her know. We asked that you only engage in one of the options, either to apply for grant funding or decide what's being funded. But should you be connected to an organization that is funding, we would just make sure if you're connected to an organization that is applying for funding and you're a reviewer, we would just make sure that you are not reviewing said organization.
Okay.
So, and I feel like that was a perfect segue into shifting gears. So thank you for explaining a little bit about that, Janae, about the grant funding process. I wanted to talk a little bit about what it looks like to be a community reviewer. So what exactly is a community reviewer? Part of the Black Empowerment Works process, and something that we believe is foundational to the program, is this idea that those who are closest to an opportunity or a challenge are also the ones who are closest to a solution. This plays a part in how we make decisions and how we approach the work that we're doing. We wanted to shift the power, the decision-making power from ourselves as United Way into the community members, the folks who are in the community who will be experiencing the work that they are reviewing. So that is one way that we're looking to shift the work that we're doing. So, what does it look like, or who are the community reviewers? Plain and simple, community reviewers are the folks who are passionate about and invested in Black futures, and who are folks who are able to fully commit to the process. And what that process looks like is about 30 hours across 2.5 months. Um, for the folks who are interested in being community reviewers, no prior experience is required. We really ask that you show up as yourselves. We, as part of Black Empowerment Works, we do provide a training and some other resources to kind of get folks up to speed on the way that we approach grant review and how we look to review the work that it comes through as applications on Black Empowerment Works. So we provide all the training and things in that aspect. We just ask that you show up as you are, and folks who are a part of the community. So what exactly are we looking for when we talk about bringing on good community reviewers? So really it's kind of three basic things: folks who are active listeners, empathetic, and relatable. Um, and what this looks like is a lot of the work that the community reviewers will be doing over the stretch of time that we employ them is really going to be looking at understanding the work that is happening in the community, reading the application, and also working with one another in order to, like I said, understand the work, provide good feedback, and also select which work gets funded. So we need folks who are able to be empathetic, be able to listen in a conversation that Janae had mentioned earlier, in a conversation with the grantee, with the applicant, but also be able to communicate and listen to one another when they are having the small group meetings. We need folks who are passionate about and or connected to the mission of advancing the well-being of Black people. Plain and simple, we want community reviewers who love Black people, love the Black community, and want to see progress in the Black community, want to see us to work towards that unencumbered Black future, unencumbered self-determined Black future that Janae mentioned earlier. And finally, folks who are active in their communities, and this could look like a multitude of different ways. They could be active in their church communities, active in their local neighborhoods, active in the school communities, but just whatever ways they find themselves active and connected to the greater Cincinnati community. So this is a quote from a two-time reviewer. I've gained invaluable knowledge and skills during this time and was able to learn about so many amazing organizations across the Cincinnati area. And the reason we have this quote here is we wanted to recognize that these folks are volunteers and we are asking a lot of them, but we also want to show that we are investing a lot into our reviewers. We hope that we make sure that there is a positive experience for them, so they are able to learn about all the amazing organizations and work that is happening. Diamond has actually been able to connect with one of our grantees that has furthered her work along in her own life. So just wanted to point this out here, that while we do ask folks that to be volunteers and to take an extended period of time to be reviewers, that there is payment on the back end in terms of the things that they experience. So getting to the nitty gritty of like how we make decisions and what it actually looks like to be a community reviewer. So each of our community reviewers will work in small groups of 2 to 4, small groups with 2 to 4 other community reviewers. Each of these groups will review a subset of all the grant applications received. So what that looks like is last year, I believe we received about 200-ish applications, and each small group read about 15 to 16 of those applications. Of those 15 and 16 applications, those review groups will host conversations with their respective applicants. So that looks like about 15 different 30-minute conversations with those grant applicants to kind of get a better understanding of the organization's work. Like Janae mentioned earlier, we recognize that the written word does not capture everything that we're looking for in Black empowerment work. So we want to offer this opportunity for folks to speak life into the work that they are so passionate about. So I'll talk about this 30-hour commitment over 2.5 months. Let's break down what that really looks like. So reviewer applications are open right now, and those close on June 5th. So get your applications in to be a reviewer by June 5th, and we will have that turn around to you to get the notification at latest by June 12th. On June 20th, we're looking to host a optional reviewer meet and greet and happy hour. One of the things, some of the feedback we've gotten in the past, and also one of the things we are interested in building as a part of Black Empowerment Works is to create a more communal atmosphere, a community amongst the reviewers and build those connections in person. So we will be hosting that reviewer meet and greet and happy hour, provide food and other refreshments should you be selected. Another thing we're shifting this year is a fully in-person reviewer training day. So this will be a day-long training, about 7 hours on either the 24th or the 28th. And in this session, we'll look to, again, like I said, find ways to invest into our reviewers. So of course, we're teaching them about the ways that we look to review applications, our values, and how we want to show up as Black Empowerment Works, but also we're looking for ways to build them up in other ways, provide professional development, other support to these reviewers who are gifting so much of their time to us this summer. So next in July, what that breakdown looks like. So from either July 6th or 7th, we'll host a virtual mock small team meeting. So this is just kind of a practice run of what a review session will look like for that small group. You'll be on a virtual Zoom with your facilitators and with the other members of the group, working with a practice application to kind of get a feeling and an understanding for how the process is supposed to go and get an understanding of how each other reads through an application, understands work, and how to talk with one another. On July 10th through the 25th, this will be the individual application review. And this is when you will be reading through individually that subset of applications that is assigned to your team. And then once you read through the subset of applications, submitted your reviewer scores on July 26th to 27th, you will have your first official small team meeting. And then this small team meeting, the goal is to figure out what questions or follow-up things you want to connect with the applicant on during the conversations that you'll be having at the top of August. So, as I mentioned, at the top of August, from July 31st to about August 12th, we'll be hosting reviewer applicant conversations. These are 30-minute conversations that the applicant will have an opportunity to both answer any questions that reviewers may have about the work that they're doing, and also provide a small presentation to breathe a little bit more life into the work that they're doing. Post these conversations, after these conversations on August 14th or 15th, we'll have a small team meeting number 2. And in this small team meeting, folks will come back together with renewed information about whatever they got from the conversations and make their final decisions, final review rankings and things, and submit those to us as the Black Empowerment Works team for their small subset of applications that they're reviewing. On the 21st, we're going to look to bring together all of the review teams in a larger meeting and kind of give them an overview of the portfolio of all the applications across all teams. And then in that session, they will be making the final decision on which organizations will be getting funded. So as of right now, the reviewer application is live. If you have any questions or are looking for more info on trainings and events, please be sure to visit uwgc.org/BEW review. As a part of some of our building out of different resources, we're actually going to be hosting some Black Empowerment Works, our approach to review sessions, which kind of gives you a deeper dive on what it means to be a Black Empowerment Works reviewer and what it means to kind of carry forth the work that the Champions of Change set out so long ago, but what it looks like to actually review applications and how we want to shift the narrative around the philanthropic process. But yes, like I said, visit the website and we'll be sure to share out all the information. So I'm sure you're tired of hearing Janae and I talk. We actually want to shift it a little bit and actually bring in our special guest. And so they're going to talk to you a little bit about their experience. Like I said, like Janae mentioned earlier, we have Biesa Dorsey, who's the founder of ICANN Health. She is a 3-time Black Empowerment Works grantee. We have Kimberly Huckleby of Ladies in Leadership, 3 times Black Empowerment Works grantee, and also a reviewer as a part of the process. She's been a reviewer before. And we also have Anita Harney, who has been a two-time Black Empowerment Works reviewer from Johnson Investment Council. So I'm going to leave a few questions. I'm going to ask a few questions and then we're going to open it up to the group. But just to get started, Diesa, Anita, and Ms. Kim, if you would just like to tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got involved with Black Empowerment Works. So first I see Miss Anita. Miss Anita, if you just want to talk a little bit to that first, and we really want to make this conversational. So if you want to just play off one another, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having or had a great day. This sun is much needed. So I'm enjoying the weather. But again, as Jeremiah spoke to, I work at Johnson Investment Council, and I'm actually transitioning from being in the trust department to the human resources department here shortly. But I've, as Jeremiah again spoke to, have been a reviewer. This is coming up on my third time. And I just really enjoy it. It like really is an opportunity for me to see what's happening here in the greater Cincinnati area as it relates to Black entrepreneurs doing wonderful things for Black people. And I just couldn't, this whole program fills me with a great deal of pride, I'll have to say. And I've been floored at some of the, a great deal of the applications for grants that have come through, and being a part of reviewing those applications has been just like mind-blowing, inspirational, insightful, informative. I found out some things about different organizations I didn't even know existed that I've even had the opportunity to refer people to some of these organizations for some of the services that they offer. So I'm just amazed at some of the things we're doing in the Black community here in Cincinnati. So that part has been very amazing for me. And then as a reviewer, I'm actually I'm humbled by the opportunity that I'm given to like really look at the depth and breadth of what these applications are doing for our community. And I don't take it lightly. I really don't. These people have been working, a lot of our brothers and sisters have been working effortlessly and very hard to get their businesses off the ground to, and I would say probably, I don't know, out of 100%, I could easily say maybe 80 to 90% of the applications that I have personally reviewed are efforts that are from the heart. They are from the heart, and they are serious about what they're doing to service the Black community. So from my standpoint, it's been a very humbling experience, and I am honored to serve again. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Anita. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. Diesa, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself and your work with ICANN Health.
Am I already unmuted? Because it's
Yeah, you're unmuted.
okay. All right, because this thing popped up. So, hello, everybody. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity today. Again, my name is Diesa Dorsey. I'm the founder of ICANN Health. We're a holistic health and wellness organization with a focus currently on people with prediabetes and diabetes type 2. Been grateful, overwhelmingly grateful to be able to be a recipient of the Black Empowerment Works grant 3 times now. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity perhaps to become a reviewer. It's just staying connected with this team, staying connected with the community, and just really believe, as much as they believe and have believed in me and my company, I believe in what they're doing too. You get to be involved and connected with a bunch of different people that are doing awesome things that look like us. And to be able to pour back into that and then directly pour back into our community It's just an honor. I started my company in 2019. What happened in 2020, which is when I was actually planning on, really getting out there and taking off, and couldn't do any of that in person, that is. And so having to restructure and not knowing pretty much what I was going to do was kind of difficult. And to be honest with you, I kind of stumbled across the grant, word of mouth, which is, I think, a really effective way to get this out. Somebody shared it with me, and then I was like, oh, grant, like, I already know, like, because in the past, I've had a nonprofit some years ago, and doing grants they were intimidating to me. One, I didn't have a whole lot of experience, and then two, there's so many hoops with certain grants that you have to jump through. And so I was like, I don't know. But somebody was like, person that shared it with me was like, no, like, consider this one. It's different. And I'm like, all right. So I read it, I looked through everything, and I'm like this, and I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but I'm like, this is all they're asking of me. Like this is all they, like, they're not asking me for, 50 million stats and data and, all these, like, it kind of felt more relational. Like, who are you? Like, what are you trying to do? That kind of thing. And in the process, is not overwhelming either. So that was a huge plus. And I kind of felt like I can be myself. Like, I didn't have to, just like do the most. And I could just show up as me, and I could, really share my passion. I could say Black people. I could, feel free to really, be okay with who my target audience was. And I mean, I can keep going on, but I'm sure we're gonna get questions, so I'll save some of it. But anywho, definitely encourage everybody who's interested to take part in this opportunity. And even if you didn't get the grant, I will say just the process alone, you learn so much about yourself, and you learn about your company, and you see, like, or your organization, and you see, like, well, this is where I maybe need to, develop more, or, get more information about it. And it helps you be more focused in on who you are, what your mission is, and what you want to do. So either way, it's a win-win situation.
We should have just had Yatu do the presentation. But also we wanted to bring in Kimberly Huckabee, Ladies of Leadership, 3-time grantee and reviewer. So she's seen best of both worlds. But yeah, Miss Kim, if you want to talk to us a little bit about yourself and your work as well.
Good evening, everyone. Greetings and salutations. It is truly an honor to be here this evening with you all, just to share our experiences with the Black Empowerment Works grant on the grantee side, because that's where it all began. So as it was said by Ms. Dorsey, grants writing and things of that nature in the past had been extremely intimidating. It had been intimidating because you really don't know exactly what to expect. You don't know what they're looking for. You really don't know exactly what to put in a grant from all of the work that you do. Sometimes you have a limit on the characters that you can, put in the grant with the content that you're trying to write. And it had just been absolutely horrific for us. Ladies of Leadership has been established in 2007, and we were blessed to be awarded the Black Empowerment Works grant, the first cycle. And when I tell you, they have been conduits for us. When they say, call us, ask a question, it's like family, right? They want you to win. They want us to win. So there's no question too small. There's no question that you cannot ask that may seem ridiculous or outlandish. Like, there's nothing you can do. And it was even in the process where we're like, I don't think we're gonna make it. They were like, yes, you are. Keep going. Don't quit. Like, you've come this far. Like, don't give up. Just submit it. Make sure it's submitted on time. And just to have that kind of support backing you to get money from the company that is actually doing the grant is mind-boggling, right? So us being a grassroots organization after even being a part, having a nonprofit organization for so many years, literally getting funding through the United Way was not possible, to be completely honest. But with this Black Empowerment Works grant, they bet on us and they gave us a chance. And they created this space and this opportunity to do it and to get it done. And they support you along the way. And I would encourage each and every person, take advantage of this opportunity. Ask the questions that you need to ask. And then the additional thing that I heard is you get to pre-submit your grant prior to the actual submission. Like, OMG, that is a game changer. So make sure, please, ma'am, please, sir, take advantage of that opportunity to make sure that you get your grant review, to ask those questions. And one of the other things that I want to say is make sure that the grant you're submitting is realistic to take place within the 12-month cycle of the grant. And another nugget I want to give you is have somebody review your grants that does not know about your organization or your company. That way, if they can explain what you do back to you, then you know that you have written a well-written grant.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I should have just gave the whole presentation. I'd have one more question, but I do want to remind folks that I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. And if you have anything, feel free to put it in the chat. But the last question, and you all three of you already kind of touched on this, but can you just talk a little bit about any advice you would give to folks who are on the call and maybe they're like, I don't know if I should apply to this, or I'm in this space, but I don't know if I'm already there yet, or just talk about from both aspects of being a grantee applying for it, but also being a reviewer who's reading somebody who you could tell is newer in the space.
I can say that as a reviewer, it is crucial, I believe, for you to be open-minded. Just because you read an application and go through an application, and you might have like, this isn't going to work, or what have you. Save that judgment for a little ways out, so that you can kind of try to form an objective opinion about whatever it is that they're trying to do, and not just put your thoughts on what you're seeing up front. Give it an opportunity to get to the point where when they make their formal presentations, to hear what they have to say. My mind was changed over and over again when I got to hear the person make their presentation as to what it is that they were wanting the grant monies for, and to hear the passion, to hear more of a detailed explanation really helped to kind of change my mind or put a new spin or perspective on how I was reviewing their grant. So open-mindedness, I believe, is key.
I would share, and thank you, Anita, for sharing that, because honestly, I think I was in that position where I wrote out, what I was going to do, but when I actually could speak to the reviewing team, I think I was probably that one of those groups you're talking about, where it's like, that makes more sense now. Okay, well, yeah. So I would say two things real quick. One, I would say, as a recipient and as somebody who's applying, be creative with your idea. I would start writing something, think it was a good idea, and I would scrap it and start over and keep going back and forth. And it's like, just if you have an idea, if it's not $25,000, like, that's okay. You start off small. If you only need, $1,500 for just to kick off that, like, until you kind of grow, or, you don't have to max it out the first time. Like, you can take your time and develop, and I'm pretty sure BW is not going anywhere. So if you got to apply next year, but you just need to get your feet wet and, get a test. And like, I think Kimberly said this, make sure it's something that you can actually fulfill. So making sure that you're not, like, doing something that's really going to take 3 years to accomplish. So just being mindful of what it is. And then the second thing I learned, I didn't do this the first time around. I learned that I need to pay myself. And that's one thing that they supported me in, like the first time around, I was like trying to be making sure that a whole lot of money wasn't going toward paying me, and then, paying if I had a staff and all the things. And it's like, girl, you're doing this work and you're doing it like we're not in business not to make money, right? So making sure that I paid myself, and that took some adjustment and getting comfortable with like seeing an itemized, an item on the budget that says, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, consultation, personnel, whatever you want to call it. But making sure that you do that, because they're telling you we support your work. And the only way the work is getting done is if you're doing it or whoever else is doing it, and you got to make sure you're compensated. So I thought, that taught me something too. So you better believe that second time and that third time, I changed it up. So I could appreciate that, because who's going to tell you to pay yourself? Like, you know what I mean? So that's just another speaking to, how they really value.
What else I would say is, Ms. Anita and Diasa, y'all are hitting the nail right on the head. What I would say as a reviewer, make sure you take your time slot. Make sure you schedule that 30-minute time slot to meet with the reviewers, because that is optional. But it is imperative that you take the time to meet with the reviewer, schedule that time. And one thing that I found is they get to hear your heart, right? We were able to hear the heart of the work, because some of the content in the grant was questionable. However, once we heard from the grantees as a reviewer, it changed the entire trajectory of my thought process of the organization. And they thought that they were explaining it during their presentation time in the grant, but it was completely contrary. So just make sure you take that time that is allotted to you. And another nugget I would give you is bring the benefactor with you during your time with the reviewer. Bring whoever your consumer is, whoever the person is. You don't have to do it by yourself. You can bring your team, you can bring the benefactor, whoever it is. I would definitely bring somebody that can testify to the work that you've already done. So that is my nuggets, my 2 cents.
I also wanted to just kind of add that you need to take this serious. Like Diasa did mention how non-complex the application process is, but as a reviewer, this is somebody's blood, sweat, and tears, right? So they're serious about wanting to provide some better services or new services or a heartfelt need that they feel is necessary for the Black community. And I would say, don't just like look over something like the day before you're going to, we have like a deadline or something. It's like, oh, well, let me just go ahead and look at that real quick. Don't do that. That's doing a disservice to these people who have spent their time and their money, spent time and money trying to get their businesses off the ground and looking for some additional funding to take their ideas and their businesses to the next level. So take it serious. I think that's important.
And that's on both ends. If I could, the truth is, yeah, it's not super complex, but take it serious and filling out the questions thoroughly and understanding, because I've not been a reviewer, but they're reading all this stuff. So, I think essentially, even though it's not like super complex, it's still important to take seriously. So yeah, definitely what you said too.
Agreed. Because I have seen some applications that seem like they were just kind of thrown together, so, I applaud the United Way for its efforts in, trying to help, Black people to the next level in ways that I've not seen this type of effort before anywhere. And I've lived in quite a few different cities. So this is phenomenal. So like you said, Diesa, when you're filling out the application as well, take it serious.
Okay. Thank you for all that. Is there anybody in the audience wants to come off mute, ask a question of our three guests or us? We can answer questions as well. Or if you're shy, you can put it in the chat.
Gotta be some questions out there, right?
Oh, yeah,
Don't be shy.
Yeah, did such a good job. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I appreciate you, sister, so much. I put it in the chat, man. Like, I just appreciate, first of all, brother Jeremiah. You know what I'm saying? You and everything that all y'all doing. Appreciate y'all so much. You know what I'm saying? It means a lot. But the question I have is, so as somebody who's been doing a lot of the work in the community for a long time, but I don't have anything started yet. I just really want to, you know what I mean, get this started because I've had this idea and I've worked with these people for a long time. Would it make sense for me to connect with some people who are trying to do what I'm trying to do in California, who have been doing it for a few years now, and it's really working? Would it make sense to have them a part of the process as I apply, or should I just cite that I'm going to consult them? Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, should I have them be a part of what I'm trying to do, or cite that I'm going to use them to consult?
I think you should cite that you might use them as a consultant, right? We're looking to invest in community-based, Black-led work, homegrown in Greater Cincinnati. So it's like not going to provide an asset to list them as a partner in this, but I think definitely if it's a model that you're replicating, you should 100% reach out, learn more, have them as someone who will guide you throughout that process. Thank you for asking that question. Go ahead. You had to build on that?
No, I was just going to say thank you so much, Sister Janae. I appreciate you.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And we want to lift up, right, that this can invest in work that may be in its idea stage, like Mr. Andre just said. It might be something where you've thought about it for a while and you have a plan on how to execute it, but you might not have done it yet. And it can be work that you've done for years and years and years and years. We're open to both, and we look to invest in a wide variety of work.
And I would also say, don't discredit the years that you've already put into what you're doing. You already have data. You just may not have thought about it and calculated it yet. And you said that it is working. So there's proven results somewhere. So don't discount what you've already done and go ahead and implement it.
Thank you for that build. Other questions or comments?
I do have a question. So I've been like, first, let me say I'm so super excited to be a part of this opportunity in this journey. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about work that you've been working on and doing, because I'm kind of in flux between been doing this work for 10 years, but something needs to change in our community. So I finally feel like this is the avenue to do that. My question is, I've got all this information and all this data that I have been keeping and storing and researching. With the application, I did start it online, and I noticed that it's a lot of, it's mostly text, but I've been working in like a document. Are we able to upload the document too, maybe like as an appendix, or should I like copy and paste? Like I'm not quite sure, because I know like with some of the boxes there's word limits, word counts, but I have like, I'm ready for it. So I've got charts and I've got like, I've just been like going in on this. And so I'm just trying to figure out how best to capture some of that information that may have not necessarily been in like sentence format, but might be good for you guys, as especially for the reviewers to be able to see that. But maybe with the system, the way it's set up, it's not able to, because it's like paragraph format.
Yeah, so system wise, one, there are character or word counts on the questions, but it's 4,000 words. Like, you would have to write a great novel to get past that character count. And we encourage you to only use all the space that you need, but don't feel the need to fill up all the space. It is not a challenge. You do not need to put 4,000 characters or 4,000 words in every question. The reviewers, I think, will appreciate if you don't do that, but you do take the amount of space that you need to explain it. But there is a section where you can add attachments. So you have the ability to add up to 2 additional attachments, and you can add the budget and the timeline as attachments as well. In those attachments, it does only limit you to upload like PDFs, and I think it's PDF, Word document, Excel. So if you have something that's like a video, if you have a link to it, you can put that link into the section of the application that asks if you have any links that you want us to look at. If it's pictures, like, combine those into one document. The size of the document that it allows is pretty large, but I will say, and I would love Anita and Kimberly's perspective on this, don't feel the need to attach everything that you've ever written either, right? So it's enough to understand the work that you're trying to do in the ways that you would explain it, but there isn't a need to inundate people with every bit of data that you have ever found. Anita, I would love as a person that has actually had to do the review.
Yeah, that's a good point, Janae, because sometimes it can kind of oversaturate the whole process if you're adding too much, Dr. Connor, if you're adding too much information, and it can kind of get convoluted, so to speak, and then it kind of takes you off drift from what the primary premise is of what it is that you're trying to get money for. So, I would use discretion in terms of the information that you not just add onto the application itself, but the documents that you upload.
Chris Macklin in the chat. Also, one of the original champions of change who designed the program and a past reviewer said, agreed, use the conversation platform to showcase numbers and impact, and you can put that in the application as well. Other questions? You all have been a great group of participants this evening on a beautiful Thursday.
About time.
All right, so we're gonna shift. I'm gonna share my screen again for you, Jeremiah.
Cool. Well, again, thank you to our wonderful guests, Diesa, Kim, and Anita. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience and asking great questions. If you have additional questions, feel free to give us a call at the number here, 513-762-7233. That is our Black Empowerment Works hotline. If you don't answer, leave a voicemail. We'll get back to you within 24 hours. Again, that will go to all the members of the Black Empowerment Works team, as well as the shared inbox below where black-led@uwgc.org. You can also schedule unlimited number of 30-minute question sessions at uwgc.org/BEW apply. Excuse me. So we have some upcoming workshops just to help you get more information and gain more insights into the process. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Insights into the process. We have several grant workshops, which will help people to kind of like work on their tools to make sure that they're ready to submit the application. And we also have our approach to grant review sessions that I mentioned earlier, where we're doing more of a deep dive into what it looks like to be a Black Empowerment Works reviewer and carry forward the vision of the original Champions of Change. But yes, those are our upcoming workshops. Hope to see you there. You can find all those on our website. Again, thank you all for coming out. Questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. But we hope you enjoy the rest of the beautiful Thursday afternoon.
I do want to insert one more comment. So within the Black Empowerment Works application, we're looking to build out an opportunity for collaborative projects. So we'll provide more details on what is defined as a collaborative, but at a basic level, if there is work that you're doing in close partnership with other organizations, and it's at the point where you have shared decision making, there is shared accountability for the outcomes and shared resources. We're building out a pathway for you to submit one application as a contingency with the ability to request more dollars as a group. In building that out, it does mean that that counts as your one application per cycle. So that counts as the one application for any of the multiple organizations that are entering into that collaborative. We will be sending out more information about collaboratives very shortly. We have a couple of tweaks that we want to make to the application. So I would encourage you, hold off on a second on hitting submit to that application, and we'll be sure any changes that we make to communicate that as quickly as possible to everyone who attended the session, anyone that started an application, and beyond. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening. If you have any questions that you want to ask us, we'll stick around for a little bit to answer those. Otherwise, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll stop our recording.
That's cool.